Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Nedarim Daf Lamed Zayin, and we're starting 4 lines from the bottom. Yeah, 5 lines from the bottom on Lamed Vav Amud Beis. You're just going to cause problems, or you're going to and then walk out.
Mark asked me to do that.
Oh yeah. Sounds about Mark. Yeah.
He's just a lawyer who's going to cause problems.
I know. Yeah. So the Gemara had mentioned in our Mishnah, what happens if there's an Isser Hana between me and you, but I'm your kid's Rebbe, or I'm your Charusa, and you're Madir Hana for me. So the Mishnah had said, 5 lines from the bottom, Elamdo Medrash Halachos ve'Agados. I'm allowed to teach you Medrash and Halach and Agada. We'll define Medrash, at least in a little bit, possibly today. Avalo Yilamdenu Mikra, but I'm not allowed to learn Mikra with you. So let's just analyze this. It means that when I teach you Medrash, Halachos, and Agados, obviously there's no particular Hana, because if there was a particular Hana, I wouldn't be able to teach you. However, when it comes to Mikra, it seems to be that there is a Hana, and therefore I'm not allowed to teach you because you were Madir Hana from me. So if you're Madir Hana from me, and I'm teaching you Mikra, so we have to just bouncing off the page. Why is there a difference between Mikra and Medrash? Obviously, so the Gemara says 4 lines from the bottom. Mikra, my time alo yilam denu. Why is it that when it comes to Mikra, and if you are Madir Hana from me, that you're not allowed to get Hana from me? Why can't I teach you Mikra? So the Gemara says Mishum de kama hanile. Well, by Mikra there's Hana. What's the implication of this answer? That by Mikra there's Hana, but not by Medrash. But we're learning Torah. When we learn Torah, we don't really make these kinds of distinctions. So learning Torah is learning Torah. Why would you say that one is Hana, the other is not Hana? So the Gemara doesn't like this. Medrash nami kama hani. If we were to learn Medrash together, it would also be a Hana. Yet the Mishnah says that I'm allowed to learn with you, even though you were Madir Hana from me. Says the Gemara, a strange answer. Anu kimta. Amar Shmuel b'makom shenot l'nschar al hamikra ve'not l'nschar al hamedrash. We're talking about a city, a place where it is commonplace to take schar on learning Mikra, and therefore, if I teach you Mikra for free, it's a hana for you that you don't have to spend money on me. Masha'ein kain in regards to Mikla, in regards to Medrash, ve'not l'nschar al hamedrash. That when we learn Medrash together, it's not common in that community to charge for Medrash, and therefore, when I learn for you, there is no fiscal benefit to you learning Torah with me. What is completely ignored by the Gemara? The hana of learning Torah. Why? I'm just raising my own. Why doesn't the Gemara talk? Why isn't that a hana? Mrs. Lavlehenos. But we've had other. Right. Could be. Could be. Did this ever come up? Why didn't we say that even when we said, remember by the Pruta de Rabbi Yosef, I think it was, we said by Pruta de Rabbi Yosef that even when it comes to the mitzvah of Hashava Saveda, maybe we shouldn't be able to do it because of Pruta de Rabbi Yosef. There too, we also didn't say that the mitzvah was a hana. It's probably what you're saying. It's the mitzvah is hanosin. So that's what the Gemara says. But the Gemara doesn't like this answer. My paska, and the Mafarish here explains that how can you say that we're talking here about a minhag? Our Mishnah seems to be fairly categorical. In regards to Mikra, it's not allowed. In regards to Medrash, it is allowed. Not about what city you're from. That's a very strange ukimta to give in a case like this.
Well, where do you have the Medrash from if you don't have the Mikra? The whole point of the Medrash is to explain the Mikra.
Your point is true. That's true, but it doesn't mean that they're the same. Rashi is not the same as the Gemara. The Gemara is not the same as the Mishnah. The Mishnah is not the same as the Psukim. So
it doesn't exist without
100%. But that I agree with you, and that's factual. But it doesn't change the mitzias that they are still different qualities. Quality is not the right word. Different levels. I'm not sure what words to put there. Yeah, they're just different. Yeah, they are different. They are different. And the question is where the hana lies. So we're not at the bottom of this sugi yet. We're still like kind of digging a little bit. So my paska, how can you say this? Doesn't make sense to say that it's based on a minhag. And turning to the top of Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, "Hakamash malan de'afilu b'makom shenot l'nschar." Even in a place where it is typical to give out money for learning, al hamikra shari lemishkal, it's permissible to take money for mikra, and therefore usher for me to teach you. And ala medrash lo shari lemishkal, it's never allowed. You're never allowed to take money for medrash. Never. And therefore, there's no such thing as hana. Even if the place typically does pay for that. Let's say I'm a Gemara Rebbe, and Makor says, you know what, we want to pay you to give Daf Yomi. So the Gemara says, even if that were to be the case, if you're sitting in the shiur, you're Madir Hana, I can still teach you. That's fine. By Medrash, there's no such thing as taking money. Ma'ishna medrash selo. Why is it that in regards to mikra, we do allow conceptually for a person to get paid? Masha'in kain, when it comes to medrash, they're never allowed to get paid. And the Gemara says that's based on a pasuk, actually based on a couple of psukim. Tichsiv ve'osi tziva Hashem ba'yisahi lelamed eschem. Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded me to teach you. Uchsiv re'ei lamadati eschem chukim u'mishpatim kasher tzivani Hashem. These are the two psukim. And the Gemara says ma'ani bechinam afatem nami bechinam. Just like I learned. And we have to look back in this pasuk. Chukim u'mishpatim. Chukim u'mishpatim is the definition of medrash, not medrash like we know it. Medrash like we know it is this. It's Gemara. When we say medrash, we're referring to midrashay Chazal. We're referring to analysis of psukim, but lav davka that they're chukim u'mishpatim. There's agadatas too. That's also Talmud Torah. So here the Gemara defines medrash as chukim u'mishpatim, which is very interesting. Either way, the Gemara says that Moshe Rabbeinu made this following this hekesh. He said, "Ma'ani bechinam, afatem bechinam." So therefore, just like I, Moshe Rabbeinu, had to teach Klal Yisrael chukim u'mishpatim, and I wasn't paid, so too you should be teaching Torah to others and not get paid. And therefore, there's no such thing as an Isser Hana of teaching medrash to someone, even if they're Madir Hana from you.
You got paid for teaching.
You could what? You
got paid for teaching mikvah?
So if we stopped right here, it would seem that
He didn't teach mikvah.
Who?
Oh,
did Moshe get paid? Oh.
Saying the reason why it's acceptable on the negative side is because you didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And walking in shivering.
The Gemara is going to speak about that today. Yeah, he became super wealthy because of that. That's true. But the psolas, with the psola, we'll speak about that soon. Interesting question, Stan. I didn't look into it. Interesting. But the Gemara is still bothered. Mikra nami bechinam. I don't understand. Mikra nami bechinam. Like he also, if he was learning Torah, he's teaching Torah, like that should also not cost any money. He didn't get paid for that either. So it says the Gemara, this is a machlokas amoraim. And this machlokas amoraim is going to carry us for a good amud or so. Says the Gemara, you're right. Really, when it comes to mikra, it should be chinam. But there are some potentially external factors when you're teaching mikra that do cost money. For example, Rav Amar schar shimur. When you're teaching mikra to children, you need someone to watch over the children, like to make sure that they don't hang from the chandeliers, and that they don't kill each other, and that they don't practice some of the things in the Torah that are usher. Like, oh, cool, that's how you do ritzicha. Let's try it in the playground. So because you have to hire people, so therefore for the Rebbe to teach, he had to hire someone to watch the kids, and he passes that cost back on to you, and therefore that's only true by mikra, because what do we say in the Mishnah? Ben Chamisha le Mikra. The older kids weren't learning Tanakh. They already knew Tanakh by heart. Remember, our culture is not the same. We're not where we should be in many areas, certainly not in learning. And the Gemara says, according to Rav, that the reason why Mikra is different, why we can still be Makabel Schar or Notel Schar, is because of Schar Shimon. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, no. Schar Pisuk Ta'amim. Pisuk Ta'amim is the trup. And according to this baseline understanding of the Gemara, it seems to be that the trup was not a fundamental part of the pasuk. That's what it seems to be. We'll see by the end of the day today that this is a machlokes. But that's what the Gemara suggests, is that maybe the reason why the Rebbe is getting paid money is not for the words that he's teaching, but it's much more difficult, or I should say, it's another layer of difficulty to teach the trup. You've got some kids who are tone deaf, some kids who have no cadence, some kids who are quick on the trup, but still, even for kids who are quick with their voices and with their musical people, it still takes a long time to memorize trup for a pasuk. It still takes a lot more time. So that's what the schar is for. It's not for the mikra, it's for the pisuk ta'amim. Now let's ask a couple of questions to see if we can clarify who we hold like between Rav and Rav Yochanan. So our question is, why is it that mikra should be something that you can get money for? After all, it's Torah. And the Gemara says you're right. We're not talking about the mikra itself. Either, according to Rav, we're talking about the babysitters to make sure the kids don't tear the building down, or we're talking about Rav Yochanan, who says that the Rebbe has to do extra work when it comes to the piskei ta'amim, when it comes to the trup. Says the Gemara, here's one question. We learned in our Mishnah, Tnan, lo yilamdenu mikra. That's what our Mishnah said. Our Mishnah had said that in a case of a mudar hana, that I'm not allowed to teach you psukim. Bishlam alamanda amar schar pisuk ta'amim hainu de lo yilamdenu. I could understand if you tell me that pisuk ta'amim is something that I have to teach you, and that really costs money, that if I now do it for free, it's a hana for you. I understand that. Elalamanda amar schar shimur gadol bar shimur hu. I'm a grown man. You're a grown man. If I have to teach you Torah, I don't need a babysitter for you. You're fine. And if
One could argue that.
well, it depends who's in shiur, not especially this shiur. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a true story. I wasn't going to say it, but now that you brought it up, we can talk about it. It's not an elephant in the room. It's a circus in the room. It's a circus.
But the elephant isn't here.
He's probably in the room.
So says the Gemara as follows. When it comes to schar shimur, that doesn't make sense because Galal bar shimur who says the Gemara gives an ukimta. Our Mishnah is talking about a katan. Bekatan katani. Says the Gemara, you cannot say that our Mishnah is talking about a katan. Why not? Check this out. Ibekatan ein maseifa. What does it say later? It says later in our Mishnah, aval malamed es ban of mikra. That if you're madir hanafim, you're not willing to take hanafim me. I'm not allowed to teach you mikra, but I'm allowed to teach your children mikra. But if what we're saying is that the you in this Mishnah is a katan, that katan doesn't have children by definition. It says the Gemara, ein maseifa aval malamed es ban of mikra. Katan bar banimu. He's a 10-year-old child. So if you and I were in cheder together, or Hillel Torah, which is where I went, not cheder. So then if you were Madir and a Phil, I'm going to get no hana from you where Chavru says. So I'm not allowed to learn mikvah with you, but I can with your children. It's not even shayach, where you're not even in the parsha. So the Gemara says you're right. And chasure mechzara b'hachik tani, we're halfway down on Lamed Zayin and Aleph, and the Gemara explains as follows. Lo yilamdenu mikra bekatan. When we are talking about yilamdenu mikra, what is that prohibition in our Mishnah? That's only talking about if you and I are both katanim. However, im hoya gadol milamdo lo ulabana mikra. But if in fact you were a gadol, then yes, I could learn with you. This is the chasure mechzara and the new explanation of our Mishnah. So what is implied from here? If I'm allowed to teach you mikra as a gadol, that means that Rav's opinion of schar shimur has to be wrong. That's what it seems to. Is it the other way? Rav was of the opinion that we're talking about schar shimur. This Mishnah says lo yilamdenu mikras bekatan, and imhaya begadol. No, it seems that Rav is correct because now that you're a gadol, now I can actually teach you, which means that schar shimur was the concern. So by a katan where schar shimur is a concern, that's an isser hana because if I do it for free, when I saved you money. That's hana, that's not allowed. But by a gadol, so then schar shimur is not applicable, and therefore I'm allowed to teach you, no problem at all. So the Gemara seems to say, what?
No, we're talking about before. Someone else doing safeguard.
It's true.
You pause on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I just misunderstood the Gemara. I always write in pen. I have like a Beshita, I write in pen in my Gemara, not in pencil. But now I have to scratch out because I realize now that I misunderstood. I wrote it wrong in my notes. I got to scratch it out now. That's the worst. Says the Gemara as follows. Another question on this machlokas between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan Meisvei. Tinokos lo koren b'tchila b'Shabbos, ella shonen b'Shabbos. When it comes to young children who are learning, you're not allowed to teach them on Shabbos for the first time. You can't breshis bar lukim. You cannot learn psukim with them for the first time on Shabbos. Ella shonen berishon. You are allowed to begin your chazara on Shabbos. So if you learn the parsha, you learn the psukim on Friday morning, and then Friday night you want to do chazara, shnai mikra v'chatar, no problem at all. That's great. But you, as a rebbe, cannot teach a kata new psukim on Shabbos. So says the Gemara. Let's analyze. If you want to say that the reason why I'm not allowed to teach you Nup Sukkim on Shabbos is because of Pisuk Ta'amim, and Pisuk Ta'amim costs money, and therefore, if I teach you, it would be a hana for you, or if I teach you in this case, it would cost money, that makes sense, because you're not allowed to charge for things on Shabbos. Ella says the Gemara, if you're going to say that really the restriction is babysitting, if we're talking about babysitting, which costs money, then what's the difference in Korban B'tchila b'Shabbos and doing Chazar on Shabbos? Still need babysitters. What's the difference? It says the Gemara, we already, sorry, that's the end of the question. There you're going to have Schar Shimur b'Shabbos for both issues, for learning it the first time and for doing Chazara. So that's a Gemara that seems to imply that the Shita is like Rabbi Yochanan, that it's really about Pisuk Ta'amim. Says the Gemara, that's your whole analysis is wrong. We're not allowed to pay someone on Shabbos. We pay people on Shabbos all the time. We don't pay them on Shabbos, but we pay them for work that they do on Shabbos. After all, Havla, this is one of the famed sugyas in Shas about Havla. My son, Yaakov, works as a waiter for, as many of our kids have. They work as a waiter for kiddushes and for luncheons on Shabbos. The Maisa, how do you get paid? We don't double, triple pay, right? Like, how do you work on Shabbos? So there's this principle called Havla, and we're going to learn about that right now. But Havla, Mishra Shari, we know that that's permissible. How do we know that Havla is mutter? Havla is defined as I'm doing work on Shabbos, but I also do some of the work during the weekday. So when my boss pays me for the work that I do on Shabbos, it's really paying me for the non-Shabbos work, which includes the Shabbos work, but it's because it's kind of all mixed together, it's therefore not problematic. Says the Gemara Tanya, 3 lines from the bottom, Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Hasocher es hapoel. If I hire a worker, lishmor es hatinok, a babysitter, lishmor es hapara, cow sitting, lishmor es hazraim, to watch over my field, ein nosan lo schar Shabbos. If I hire you on Saturday for Saturday, I'm not allowed to pay you for that. That's mamish aser, because we don't work on Shabbos. Lefichach, therefore, because on those days I'm really not allowed to hire you, so then you're really not a poel. And therefore, im avdo eino chai b'achrayusan. Your level of achrayus for that item is very low, because I'm not paying you. You're like a regular shomer. You're a regular shomer chinam. So therefore, your responsibilities are very small. So what we see over here, just as a little bit of a deeper layer, is that the level to which I'm able to pay you on Shabbos is the level to which you are a shomer for me on Shabbos. So therefore, because I'm not able to pay you, when I hire you on Shabbos morning at 8 a.m., can you come babysit for my kids till 4 p.m.? That doesn't work. You have to ask them to do something else for you after Shabbos to pay them behavla. Otherwise, it's not allowed. And therefore, because they're not getting paid, their level of shmir is very low. In contrast, the Brisa continues on the top of Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Schir Shabbos, if I hire you for a week, schir chodesh, or for a month, schir shana, or for a year, schir shavua. So says the Gemara, no sin lo schar Shabbos. Then I can pay you behavla. That's mutter. The fichach, because I'm able to pay you. Therefore, we're seeing this direct link between the capacity to pay someone as an employee, and therefore on Shabbos they're a poel. Therefore, their level of shmira is higher. The fichachim avdo chayav b'achrayus. There, you're responsible for it. You're no longer a shomer chinam. Now you're a poel. You're a socher, whatever the language is. So, what do we see from here? We see from here that you are allowed to be paid on Shabbos. So that's a kasha on our initial understanding of this Gemara. Ella says the Gemara, you're correct. The Gemara that says that a child is not allowed to learn the pasuk for the first time, but is allowed to do chazara on Shabbos, that wasn't talking about Rav and Rav Yochanan at all. What was it talking about? Elagabe Shabbos, hainu taima de'ein korim b'tchila mishum. Why is it that a child should not go to yeshiva and learn psukim for the first time on Shabbos? Mishum de yafnu avahason de yenuke. What a gorgeous Gemara. That the fathers are available to their children to do the mitzvahs of Shabbos. The mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. Oneg Shabbos might well be a mitzvah d'oraisa, and we are obligated to fulfill those mitzvahs. And because, the Meforshim explain, because learning a pasuk for the first time is very hard, you first have to get the pronunciations right. And then you have to get the basic understanding. And then you're going to do the Pisuk Ta'amim. And then you're going to learn a Rashi. And then you're going to learn a Ramban. It's very involved. It's very involved. And that detracts from the Oneg Shabbos that a father has an obligation toward his child. So we're seeing in the Gemara a fascinating preference, a hierarchy of making sure that Shabbos still has an Oneg Shabbos component and not just the learning. The learning is beautiful and it should happen. But the Gemara says you cannot learn things that are very difficult on Shabbos and send your kids off to yeshiva to learn all day because there is a mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. That's what the Gemara says. It's crazy, no? I was very surprised by this.
It's a big steer because that's one of the reasons you can't really learning Master Shalom during Shiva.
What?
Because it's Mesameach B'Leil learning.
It's true. It's true. But here, this is much more of this sounds like a warm and fuzzy Gemara, but really what this Gemara is saying, how does the mitzvah of Talmud Torah intersect with the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos? It's really what the Gemara is asking.
Or maybe there's a difference between a child and an adult. Too.
Well, here the framing of the Gemara, that it seems from the Gemara that a father has an obligation to enable the mitzvah of Oneg for his children. That's what it seems from the Gemara. Because the language is the Yifnu Avahason, the father is now available to Yanuke for his kid, the mitzvah of the Shabsa. So it seems that what?
Why is it only according to Tchila?
Because it takes a lot more time to learn the Pesukim the first time. What? Yeah, they're learning. They're mamish learning. Yeah, they're working very hard. So that's one approach that has nothing to do with Rav and Shmuel. Just Rav and Yochanan.
She says the children were just studying the material on Shabbos and so intense that parents would be forced to delay manage Shabbos meals on the time.
Right.
So it's not so much like that they're spending quality time together.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's the mitzvah of oneg against. That's why I said back to back. It's the mitzvah of oneg against the mitzvah of Talmud Torah.
Right.
So what happens? The parents sit home. The kid doesn't come till 3:00. You got home from shul at 10.
Seems like it's more like an inconvenience to the parents.
But the language of the Gemara is really fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't the Gemara just say what I saw what you were talking about? Why didn't the Gemara just say that? Like, just say it. Why don't you just say because you're being ma'achar the meal?
Yeah.
That's what the Mefarish says here, 12 lines down. Like you're saying, Shim hayu asukin lehikrosan b'tchila b'davar chadash. If the kids had to go to cheder on Shabbos morning and learn new psukim, hayu trudin bahen v'lo hayu pnuyin l'mitzvah Shabbos leisanig bo. Aval, the Mefarish concludes, shonin, you can do chazara, hol v'kvar limduhu lo mitrid behu. We all know that when you do chazara, if you learned it well the first time, the chazara is relatively easy. That's for sure. The first time's hard. Yeah, like David said, you're breaking your teeth over it. First time is very, very hard. I feel that way every single day. The first time I learned Daf, I'm like, tonight's going to be the night that I can't get through it. And then the second time, I'm like, that's not so bad. Third time, I'm like, okay. The fourth time, and then we all know that experience. That's exactly what it's like. So that's the Gemara's answer. And here's yet another answer. V'yakir alehon alma. The world will be heavy on them. Amar Shmuel, shinui veses tchilas chole me'ayim. When there's a change in your schedule, it messes with your stomach. Now, really, what the Gemara is saying is, as one person called it this past week when we were spending time together, it's called a carbs coma. Is that after you eat a big meal, your eyelids get very heavy. And what the Gemara is saying is that the reason why you can't learn the first psukim on Shabbos is because your head's not in it. Half of a fellow. That's crazy. Yeah, that's what the Gemara says.
So what is your minute exactly about the Suda Shabbos now?
I'm going to trust you.
So, but regardless, whether it's in difference in quality or in quantity, it's still shiur message.
For what?
I'm saying for the machal and more Shabbos.
Yeah, but I think with the Gemara, I was bothered by this when I learned it before. The line of Shmuel doesn't really perfectly match with the Gemara's previous statement. The previous statement was the b'Shabsa achlin v'shasin v'yakir alehon alma. On Shabbos, they're eating and they're drinking, and the world becomes heavy to them. And Shmuel says, whenever you change your schedule, your stomach gets all messed up. They're really not a perfect correlate. I don't know.
Or if you eat at different times, or you eat longer.
The Mefarish says here a third of the way down, V'yakir lehu alma shekavit alehem lilmod mibnei hama'achal. It's hard for them to learn because of the food. Ulahachi, and therefore ein korn b'tchila b'Shabbos to mitzar lehu. Their stomachs hurt.
The one thing she said that they ate more than usual. It doesn't say different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
That must be one side of the whole.
No, but if you say
lilmod b'tchila shetzarich iyun meruba, the end of that Ran, because you need to have heavy focus when you learn things for the first time.
catch me at 1:30 in Shabbos.
Oh yeah.
No, but also this thing with Shmuel, it seems like it's only connected. The first, like his Resha and the Seifa are really not together. Only the Resha of what Shmuel said is connected to the rest of it.
Yeah. We'd have to really learn Shmuel. We did learn Shmuel in context in Ksubis, but I'm not exactly sure what the Shmuel reference is here. I'm not 100% clear. Okay, let's find out, why did Rav not hold like Rav Yochanan, and why did Rav Yochanan not hold like Rav? According to the one who said that the reason why Mikra would be an Isser Hana for me to you is because really I'm allowed to take money because Pisuk Ta'amim, teaching the trop, is hard. My time alo Amar Schar Shimur. Why didn't he say like Rav? Because Kasavar Banos Mika Boyan Shimur. When you teach girls you need a babysitter, they sit like angels in the classroom like nothing ever happened. The boys are graffitiing the bathroom walls, and the girls are sitting there with their hands clasped with a pen in front of them and a chumash. It can't be that it's just Schar Shimur, because that's just not across the board. It just depends on the room. What if it is a boys' class, but it's a boys' class? It's very you got the calm class, you know.
This goes back to what we said in Mishnah about
also true. Correct. Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Now it's a kasha.
It's a yeah. I was just gonna. I was sitting on the plane this morning and thinking that something doesn't sound right, because very clear that it was intended to be a part of our Mishnah. And fine, and that's because girls are different, and maybe even boys can be different if they're disciplined. Well, or according to Rav, who says that the reason why it's usher is because of schar shimur. That's why mikra people can get paid. My time lo amar pisuk ta'amim. So he answers a very, very interesting answer that's going to thrust us into a new sugya. Kasavar pisuk ta'amim deoraisahu. The trop is not separate of the fundamental understanding of the pasuk. It's not an extra layer that the rabbis added on. It's mamish deoraisa. Like it's not just the words, it's the cadence and the trop. That's also midin deoraisa. How do we know that that's true? That there's a status of a din deoraisa in regards to pisuk ta'amim? Says the Gemara, "D'amar Rav Ika bar Avin Amar Rav Chananel Amar Rav." My dechsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says v'yikru b'sefer Torah Elokim meforash v'som seichel v'yavinu b'mikra? So let's parse out the pasuk in full, halfway down. V'yikru b'sefer Torah Elokim ze mikra. That part of the pasuk is referencing the psukim themselves. Meforash zetargum. That's a reference to the targum. V'som seichel elu hapsukim. This is referring to the psukim. Where do psukim begin and where do psukim end? And then the Gemara says v'yavinu b'mikra. That pasuk is referencing the pisuk ta'amim. That is all part and parcel of the pasuk itself. Amrei la. Some say elu hamesoros. The word mesoros here is referencing how to read words where they can be read in two different ways. We see this all the time. Zecher, zecher. We see it all the time. And not only zecher and zecher. How do we know that it's eretz and not aretz, as we will soon see in the Gemara? So all of this.
How does that prove this difference?
A great question. First of all, the pasuk's from Nehemiah. And I tried to process this as well with no svarim to look up while I was there. But I really think the answer is that you're right that it's a drasha that's based on Nehemiah, but what he is doing is explaining what Torah is. It's not like a drasha per se, as much as it is a drasha, but it's almost like his understanding of how the Torah was given. The kasha and the maisa here for me is targum. That I didn't understand. Targum is doraisa. What does that even mean? Okay, I don't know, but that's what the Gemara uses as a raya. The Gemara continues on this sugya 2/3 of the way down. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Mikra, Sofrim, the Itor Sofrim, the reading of the psukim, and the Itor, the decorations of the psukim, the Karyan velo Ksivan, words that are read but that are not written, the Ksivan velo Karyan, words that are written but not read. All of them are halacha l'Moshe Sinai. What does this mean? The Gemara is going to give a whole bunch of examples. If we had ample time, and we don't, we'd go through every single pasuk that's about to be referenced in short here and explain each one in full. We're not going to do that, but it is a very, very beautiful Gemara. We're going to be trapped for time because we still have another Amud to learn. The Gemara says as follows: what is the Mikra Sofrim? Well, it could be Eretz, Shamayim, and Mitzrayim. It could be Aretz, Samim, and Mitzrayim. These are all words that we would not know how to read without this understanding. What are Itor Sofrim? What is the beautification or the decorations of the Sofer? So the word achar ta'avoru, after he crossed over, achar telech, achar te'asev, kid musarim, achar nognim, and as well tzidkasacha kiharel, the kaf. They're all extras. They actually don't technically need to be in the Torah. We don't darshan these words per se, but they're all here to make the Torah read a little bit smoother. Now, let's be clear. This is how the Torah was given. It doesn't mean that there's like versions of the Torah out there that are different than the ones we have, because there aren't. It's actually one of the masterful nisim of our history, is that the Torah that we have today is the Torah that we had back then, with very, very little tension and machlokas about the basics of what's in the Chumash. The Aleppo Codex speaks about this, they found the Rambam, and then from the time of the Rambam, they were like dating in history how the Torahs look exactly the same. There's some Malei Chaser questions that have come up over the years. I don't know exactly how that happened up, but okay, fine. So that's what the Gemara says as the examples of Mikra Sofrim. What about Karyan velo Ksivan? Words that we read that aren't written. The word pras dibelechto, that word is added in. The word ish of the pasuk of the Ka'asher Yishal Ish b'dvar ha'elokim. The word ba'im denivnasa. Again, we have to look at all these sugyas. The word la de pleta. The word es de haged hugad. The word elai of de hagoren. The word elai de haseorim. Halein. All of these are karyan velo ksivan. All of these words are read but not written. What is uchsavan velo karyan? What are the words that are written but not read. Says the Gemara, na of the pasuk de Yislach, the word zos de hamitzvah, the word yidroch de hadorich, the word chamesh de pe'as negev, the word im de chiyigal, and halein. All of these are examples of ksavan velo karin. These are examples of words that are written but not read, and all of these are halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Now, much as this is true, the Gemara presents 3 lines down on Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, Amar Rav Acha bar Ada b'Ma'arava, Paskin lahadeim psuka l'tlas psukim. There was one pasuk that was subject to a machlokes about how many psukim it was. Was it 1 pasuk or was it 3? I don't have the whole pasuk here in my Gemara, but Vayomer Hashem el Moshe hinei anochi ba'alecha ba'av ha'anan v'chule v'chule. It's a long pasuk. So according to in the Ma'arava, they had this as 3 psukim instead of 1. Fine. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama. Moshe became wealthy from the psolas of the luchos. Some Mefarshim say that the luchos were made out of sapphire. Could you imagine? The Gemara in Bava Kama highlights how large these the luchos were. They were not small. Sapphires that big. That's a good day in the mining fields. It's not normal. It says the Gemara Shenemar Psolacha Shnei Luchos Avanim Korishonim Psolasan Shalcha Yehei. You get the psolas, a Kodesh Baruch Hu with the magic laser that carved out the words, whatever it is. So all the psolas of the sapphire fell to the ground. That was Moshe's parnosa. He became very wealthy off of that. Amar Rabbi Yossi Reb Chanina Lo Nitna Torah Ela Moshe. Ulazaro, this is very controversial. This Havamin of the Gemara is that the Torah was not given to all of the Jews; it was only given to Moshe and to his descendants. Just like you got the shavings of the sapphire of the luchos, the Torah is also yours. It's also yours. Says the Gemara, but Moshe was a mensch. Moshe nog ba tovas ayin unasan ali Yisrael. If this, we don't conclude like this, but if we stopped here, what does that mean for us? How does that work? The Torah is not binding. What does that mean? Doesn't mean it's not good for you. It's for sure good for you. The question is it binding? That Moshe was very sensitive. He had an ayin tova. He was willing to share the good news. Says Gemara, that can't be. The Torah says that Moshe was obligated to teach us. Says the Gemara, he was commanded to learn. And I chose to teach you, but lav dafka that I was obligated to teach you. Same exact type of question. I was the one who was commanded, said Moshe, and I chose to teach you. Wait 1 second. The pasuk says, do you have to write the whole Torah? Says the Gemara, no. Hashira lechuda, only the psukim of Ha'azin. What about the pasuk lamantieh li hashira azos le'ed b'vnei Yisrael? Says the Gemara, therefore it must be correct that my Havamina was wrong. I thought that the Torah was only given to Moshe v'Zaro. The Gemara says that's not correct. Ela pilpula be'alma. What was given to Moshe that was exclusively his was a pilpula be'alma. Take a look at the Mefarish, 5-6 lines down.
The first or second rule, the general topic versus first or second. It's fascinating to me that all these shots.
So lecha shnei luchos avanim karishonim. We're talking about the second luchos.
You can hear the word once when you're so similar already that you can even have a havmin to say that it was just for motion because the was more of a.
That's true. But the drashas that we're making are from the second luchos.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I hear what you're saying. I didn't even think about it in that way. I was thinking forget Egel Azov, Kodesh Baruch Hu only give it to Moshe and his descendants, just simple. Because that was somewhat mashma in one of the psukim.
Yeah.
So the Gemara rejects his Havamina, Baruch Hashem. The Torah is we're all obligated to keep halacha. And the Gemara says, what was the pilpula be'alma? Take a look at the Mefarish 6-7 lines down. Dibra maschel pilpula be'alma. Lahavin davar mitoch davar hudunitan leMoshe v'niheg ba tovas aynu nesan al Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu was given how to extrapolate from A to B. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A equals to all the lumdus of the Torah. So that was given to Moshe, and Moshe did not have to share that. That was not given to us. And really, as an educator, in my world of teaching and the teaching that I do with young people, I say this all the time. My kids ask all the time, "Why is this the halacha?" Well, reason number one this is halacha is because Hashem said so, and that's actually enough of a reason. You want a reason to make it more appealing? Okay, let's talk and learning. But the actual lumdus of how we get from where we are to where we need to be, only Moshe had that Masorah. And the Gemara we're learning now is a lot of the pilpulim that we wouldn't have had. That's because niheg ba Moshe. So that was the Gemara's conclusion that pilpula be'alma, that was what was given only to Moshe and Vizaro, but he was kind enough to share it with us. Halfway down, we have a lot left to go and not that much time.
So that the halacha Moshe Sinai was given to, is that what it's
No.
Oh,
No, halacha Moshe Sinai is different. Yeah, those are very technical halachos. Yeah, those are halachos that we don't see in writing anywhere, but that we know as part of our Masorah that Moshe had in Har Sinai. But that's not this. This was a special gift that was really only for him. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ena Kadosh Baruch Hu Mishares Mashre Shchinaso Ela Al Gibor VaAsher VeChacham VaAna VeChulan BiMoshe. The features of a navi to be Mashre Shchinaso, you have to be a Gibor and Asher VeChacham VaAna. Let's analyze all of these midos. Gibor, how do we know he was so strong? Because he's the one who picked up these massively heavy leather and fabric garments and covered the ohel. But Amar Mar, Moshe Rabbeinu Parsa, Moshe himself did it. Eser Amos Orach HaKeres. These were massive pieces of material. Says the Gemara, maybe he was just tall. Imad Arich, I agree, he must have been tall in order to do this, but maybe he was Vikatin. Maybe he was a bit of a scrawny, tall guy. He wasn't exactly bench pressing in his free time, so maybe he wasn't so strong. How do you know Moshe is a Gibor? You're right. Ela min hadein kra. It's from a different pasuk. Tichsiv v'espos b'shnei aluchos v'ashlichem me'al shtei yodai v'ashaberem. He held the two luchos. He held the two luchos in his hands, and then he threw them. They were massive stones. They were very, very heavy. So that we therefore see that he is strong. And let's glorify the point that Vitanya, the Mishnah says in Baba Basra. I said Baba Kama earlier. That's not correct. In Baba Basra, haluchos orkan shisha. They were 6. V'rachban shisha. They were 6 wide in a square in one shape. V'ovyan shlosha. And they were 3 wide. So we know that he was very strong. What about Asher? How do we know that he was very wealthy? Psolacha, psolasan shalcha yehe, like we saw at the top of the page. We know that he was wealthy because of the shavings of the luchos. Chacham, how do we know that he's wise? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel Damar Tarvaycha Mishum Shari Bina Nivru Balam. There's 50 levels of understanding in the world. He was given 49 levels of understanding. We don't even know we don't know what any of this means. Nothing. We don't know what any of this means. He was on the 49th level of understanding. He was just a dry, so hard to understand. He was 1 level away from a Kadosh Baruch Hu in regards to Bina. It's impossible to understand what this means. How do we know that he was? Anav Dichsiv, the pasuk says, last short line, Veish Moshe Anav Meod. Amar Rav Yochanan Kol Navim Hashem Hayu. We know that all of the Navim were wealthy. Minalan, Mimoshe, Mishmuel, Me'amos, Miyona. These 4 people were very wealthy. This will take us to the Mishnah 3 lines from the bottom. Let's keep going. First of the middle width lines, Moshe Dichsiv Lo Chamor Echad Nasasi. I never took any of your donkeys. Says the Gemara. That shows he's wealthy. Below Agra. If we're talking about without money, then what he's going to steal? Lafu Keman Deshaka below Agra. Oh, you're such a tzaddik, Moshe. You don't say that. Doesn't tell you that you're wealthy. He tells you that you're not a thief. Ella says the Gemara, de afilu be'agra. It must be that even with paying, he never took them because he didn't need them because he was obviously wealthy.
Just answer.
We'll get there. Dilma Mishum de Ani, have a very good stand. Maybe we'll say that the reason why he didn't buy those animals with money wasn't because he had enough, it was because he was poor. He didn't have any money to buy the animals. Ella, says Stan, mean psolacha, psolastan yehe shulcha. Exactly right. So the Gemara's previous answer doesn't work. So that's how we know that he was an Asher. Shmuel, Tichsiv, hinenu anu bi neged Hashem and neged Meshicho, es shor milakachti v'chamor milakachti. I didn't take any animals from you. It says the Gemara the same line of reasoning. If we're talking about he didn't take them for free, then that's no big deal that Shmuel wasn't a ganav la'afuke. Of course, if they don't take things for free that aren't yours, says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, same logic. The fact that he didn't have to buy them even with money implies that maybe he had a lot of money. But maybe the reason he didn't buy them was because he had no money at all and he was actually poor. Another pasuk that indicates that Shmuel was wealthy, but talking about his house. What about the house? Amar Rava, everywhere he went, they brought his house. If you ever see a movie set, they bring tractor trailer after tractor trailer filled with items that they need for the movie set. And all of his belongings came with him. He had a house everywhere he went. So he's a very wealthy guy. Amar Rava, just in a brief interruption of the Gemara, there was something greater about Shmuel than by Moshe. Nasasi is a more aggressive language of taking by force. They didn't nothing at all. There was no negativity at all. They said about him, you didn't take anything. You didn't even want to take anything. Okay, let's go to the next person. Now we know that they're wealthy. 6 lines from the bottom. Amos Amos Alamsia lo navi anochi lo benavi anochi ki boker anochi uboles shekamim. He was a boker. He watched animals, and he was boles shekamim. He would tend to sycamores, which were very expensive trees. The Matargim Rav Yosef, are mare gito ana. I'm a person who takes care of animals. Shkamim li b'shiflasa, and I have all of these sycamore trees. So we know that he was very wealthy from there. Yona, we know that he went onto the ship when he was trying to escape a Kadosh Baruch Hu from taking on the nevuah from Nineveh, and says the Gemara, he paid for the whole thing, charter. He gave a whole huge amount of money. Check this out. Says the Gemara. What?
Why you left the other guys on?
Well, no, it's the other way. It's their boat, but he paid for the cost of the ship for them to let him on. He overpaid. And how much did he overpay? Amar Rav Rumnus, schar shel svina havya daled alafim dinare dahava. That's a lot of money. 4,000 dinarim of gold. And he still got that over, probably. Now this Gemara is going to be like the next Indiana Jones of where's all the gold from the times of Yonah. Rav Yochanan, last Gemara of the day. Really, Moshe had learned Torah and then he forgot. It's very comforting. Until it was given to him as a gift. It was given to him. This is a beautiful muster for us. It's okay if you forget things. It's never going to be our victory when we remember things anyways. It's all a gift. We'll stop right here. We'll pick up on Shabbos. On Sunday morning, we're going to have Daf Yomi in the morning. I really can't be more flexible than the Sunday morning thing, David. I think you're right, but I may not have a choice. So if we're here and the other shiur is empty, please ditch me and I'll just talk into the computer screen. Done it before, not the first time, not the last. So Sunday, we're not in person, and Monday, we're not in person either. I don't think. Yeah, we're not in person either. And I'll post that recording very late Sunday night for Monday's Daf. So we'll be set very early. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
Stand use.